Okay, let's be honest with ourselves just this one time. Most movie tie-in games, I said most, were bad. You'd play them once, you would get stuck on some random broken level, and you would realize why nobody liked it. And then you would just set it on your shelf, or in some cases maybe even throw it away, and it would just collect dust. But somehow, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie game managed to break that trend, at least temporarily. It was different. And for a lot of us who grew up in the early 2000s, it was a lot more than a decent game. It was truly one of the defining gaming experiences of my childhood, up there with Battle for Bikini Bottom. So why do so many people look back at this game with such love? Let's discuss. Before we get into the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I would very much appreciate it. Let's get into it. If you were a kid back then, you know the drill. Every big animated movie, and sometimes even a live action movie, got a game. Finding Nemo, Shark Tale, The Incredibles, even Chicken Little got one. Ice Age: The Meltdown, which I argue is a really solid, pretty fun 3D platformer. And most of them, yeah, they weren't masterpieces, but they were made fast, you know, they were clunky, they were made by a committee on a schedule, and they felt more like an obligation than something with a lot of passion, fun, and love put into it. But that's how it was. And that is exactly why the SpongeBob movie game felt like such a genuine surprise to so many people. You popped it into your PS2 or GameCube or whatever you played it on, expecting some cheap, quick movie tie-in, but what you got was an actual game. A game that actually felt like it wanted you to have fun. It prompted you to have fun. A big reason for that is because it was made by the same exact development team behind Battle for Bikini Bottom. And you can absolutely feel it. The movie game is basically the younger sibling of the Battle for Bikini Bottom. It uses the same engine, clearly, the same style of humor, even some of the same mechanics. But it was not just a reskin. They added upgrades, sliding levels, driving missions, which were actually a lot of fun, combat challenges. It was like they took what worked before with Battle for Bikini Bottom and said, okay, let's make it bigger, let's make it faster, let's make it a little bit weirder, a little tiny bit more polished, and let's roughly follow the story beats of the movie, which is a masterpiece in my opinion, and it absolutely worked. For kids who loved BFBB, the movie game almost felt like a bonus sequel. Like you weren't quite ready to leave the world of Bikini Bottom yet, but you know what? Here was one more adventure to dive into. And then there's the variety. The game didn't just have you jump around and collect things like so many 3D platformer movie tie-in games of that era. It kept mixing things up. One minute you're platforming through goofy movie-inspired worlds, and the next you're sliding down insane tracks and trying to hit every ring before the timer runs out, and then you're driving the paddy wagon, which is still one of the coolest vehicles in anything ever. You're driving that across the desert with SpongeBob and Patrick screaming at each other. And you know what? The game could actually be hard. Like the Sonic Wave guitar challenges. Those were so hard. And they are burned into my cerebellum or my cranium or whatever other part of my brain there is that exists. They pushed you to actually get good at the game. And as a kid, beating those levels felt like climbing Mount Everest, but in a really great way because it was so rewarding and it felt earned by the time that challenge was done. But gameplay aside, what really makes this game in particular stand out, and so many other movie tie-ins actually, is the personality of it. It just oozes that SpongeBob, early SpongeBob energy that everybody loves. The cutscenes were hilarious, and Plankton narrated everything with that, you know, his villain flair, the shtick. And the jokes felt like they were written by people who actually watched the show instead of just slapping SpongeBob's face on a box and thinking that the brand recognition would be enough. Even though it probably would have, they weren't going to settle for that. And because it followed the plot of the movie, it gave you that feeling like you weren't just watching SpongeBob and Patrick save the day. You were right there with them, driving to Shell City and screaming at the top of your lungs a long, with them. I think a lot of us remember this game so fondly because of when it hit. I was so young when this game came out, and SpongeBob was at his absolute cultural peak at the time. The first movie was, and arguably should be, and still is, a huge deal. People quote it to this very day. I quote it all the time, and the game came out at that exact time in my life to ride that wave with me. For a lot of kids, this wasn't technically my first 3D platformer, but it was definitely one of them. It wasn't Mario for me. It wasn't Ratchet and Clank for me. It was Battle for Bikini Bottom technically, but it was still SpongeBob. And that mattered because it made the game feel personal, and it made me and millions of other people realize that not just movie tie-in games, but games based on a property at all that weren't a video game first could be special, that they could be something more than just the obligatory early 2000s, late 2000s movie tie-in. It made it so much more. I would come home from school and I would fire up my PS2 and I would throw it in, lose hours collecting Goofy Goober tokens or grinding through the challenges or trying to beat the stupid paddy wagon races or whatever. It was the definitive SpongeBob experience up there with Battle for Bikini Bottom. It was your SpongeBob experience. And that's why people light up whenever it comes up in conversation. Looking back now, the SpongeBob movie game feels like lightning in a bottle. I mean, it really does. It had the right team, the right timing, and the right attitude in that space. It didn't treat players like kids who couldn't handle a, quote, real game. It gave us something challenging, something funny, and something surprisingly polished. And yeah, maybe part of the love comes from nostalgia. Sure, I'm not going to deny that at all. Nostalgia is a very powerful thing. But there's also something genuinely great about this game. And the fact that people still emulate it, speedrun it, and talk about it over 20 years later, that says a lot more than I ever could. So yeah, the SpongeBob movie game is incredible. And if you have a PS2 or another means of playing the game, wink wink, which most of you probably do, I can't recommend it enough. If you've played Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated and you've played the Cosmic Shake and you're just itching for a little bit more SpongeBob before Titans of the Tide comes out, which is looking to be his biggest and best gaming adventure yet, look no further than the movie game. I guarantee you will not regret it. This game was an adventure that defined a moment in gaming for an entire generation, or at least had a significant part in it. And if you ever played it back in the day, chances are you still remember that feeling of finally nailing that one impossible challenge and laughing at the cutscenes, or just vibing with SpongeBob and Patrick on the open road together with them. Because at the end of the day, this game didn't just ask, "Are you ready, kids?" It proved that we always were.